As you look back over your career now, it's still very much going forward, but are there periods of time that you look back and think about different seasons in your career and in your evolution as a coach that you look back and think, what was I thinking?
Oh yeah, lots. Fewer now than in the early days, but we're at Tulane. We take the Tulane job in 1985, and they actually dropped basketball for a point shaving scandal a couple of months after we took the job, made me athletic director at 33 years old and football coach, and put a committee together to vote to see if we would even keep sports at the university, and if we even had football, would it be, what level would it be, and would we have scholarships? And I'm thinking, wow, I just left Oklahoma as an offensive coordinator coming to Tulane. And then the early years at North Carolina, after we left Tulane, we're coming into North Carolina, and now it's supposed to be okay. It's supposed to be good. And shoot, we're 1-10 the first year, and I make some stupid statement to the alums in the spring when I'm speaking that I heard Lou Holtz say that he promised the Notre Dame fans, he was 5-5. He promised them he'd try to win at least twice as many games last year, and we were 1-10. I said, so I promise you the same thing. As a head coach, I'm going to try to win twice as many next year. And they all laughed and giggled, well, we won one again next year. So I was a liar. We didn't even win two more. But there were some really, really hard days there. And for all those fathers out there, when your job's struggling, your family's struggling, you just got to hang in there and keep working, because I went through a divorce at that time, and it was a very difficult thing for me. And whoever knows why, whoever knows if it was losing pressure, my focus was different, I wasn't home enough. You can always find excuses for things that didn't work, but you got to just try to make things work.
Was there ever a point maybe in that season in particular where you seriously hit the wall and really considered quitting coaching or walking away and doing something else?
Yeah, I thought at some time, Mac, they might do me a favor if they cut me loose and I wouldn't have to show up again as bad as we were. But there were a number of times in my career where I've sat down and said, maybe this is enough, and maybe I should be doing something else, and maybe I'm not the right guy for this job at this time. And in all of those cases, I've had some of those friends we've talked about that said, slow down and let's get back on track, and you're doing a great job, but just we're not seeing the benefits here yet, but we will. And thank goodness for them at those times that for some reason I was able to hang in there and get to this point.
I want to shift gears a little bit and ask you some questions that kind of pertain to game time coaching and what that's like, because all of the other big picture stuff happens year round, but at the end of the day, it's what happens on Saturday afternoons out here in the stadium or anywhere else in the country that really defines wins and losses and those kind of things, which, as you said, kind of matter here at the university. When you find yourself in the middle of a game, how do you determine, when you see an adjustment that needs to be made, how do you determine which ones are you going to make on the fly, maybe which ones are going to wait till halftime, or maybe it's going to be next week in practice and we're going to just wait on that because it's too big a deal right now to deal with?
Sure. And Mac, let me touch one other thing too for the fathers on such a special day. When you were asking about those decisions when I started to quit, and it's not because we're quitting in church, I really felt like God wanted me to keep coaching. Because there were days that I said, I want to quit. And I went home and told my wife, I think I'm quitting. And then these people in my faith, for some reason I stayed in coaching on those days. And I don't know what it is, but I did listen and I did slow down, and I really feel like that at that time I was supposed to keep coaching. It wasn't just that I sure didn't want to, and I wasn't having fun, I wasn't happy, but I felt like that as bad as things were at 2-20, and that's pretty bad in my business, for some reason something kept me in this crazy business when I should have quit. I was stupid. There's no question that people would look up and say, what's that boy doing? He's staying positive. And so there was some spirit there that did help me, and I know it helps people every day, but it did, and it worked, and it was real.
I want to ask you
Yes.
something about that, because you said, how's this guy staying positive? When you're 2-20, it's 2-20.
Yeah, it's pretty factual.
Yeah, and you can't ignore 2-20, but is there a part of that when, as the leader and as the head coach, if you're going to get out of 2-20, you have to be positive? How do you generate that heat of positiveness when other people don't feel it around you?
Well, and this answer will lead to our other question there too, but I talked to Bobby Ross, who was in a Super Bowl with the San Diego Chargers, won a national championship at Georgia Tech, and I just admired him so much. And he lost 17 straight games at Georgia Tech in the ACC, and we were playing one day, and we were 0-7, and he was 0-8, and he said, this may be a really bad game, but one bad team's going to win today. And what's really sad, we tied. I think it was really bad. It was one of those deals. But I asked him, how do you do this? You're older than I am, and you've won a lot more games than I have, but how do you keep doing what you're doing? And his answer really touched my heart. He said that every staff member is looking at you to see if you think this is going to be okay. Every player is looking at you. Every parent, every alum, every sports writer, every TV broadcaster, everybody's watching your face very closely to see if you think it's okay or if you're about to crack. And he said, fans are mad, the other students on campus are making fun of your players because they've lost so many games. And he said, unless you stay really, really positive and don't show any signs of cracking at all, you got no chance, because they're all watching everything you say and do every minute of every day. And I thought that made so much sense to me that I said, if I'm the boss not positive, nobody's positive, so I better be really, really positive. When you're asking about decisions that you make on the team or during the game, it's no different than what you do every day, Mac, for the tree that you have. We have a plan in place. We have practice plans that we work on all week. We have game plans that we feel like are going to work. And when you go into a game and everything works like it's supposed to, they shouldn't pay you, because it's so easy that you say, oh, this actually worked. Where you get down 35-7 in the first quarter and nothing's working, and you have to ditch everything and start over, and then go in at halftime and again try to get all your staff and your players, when you're in bad trouble, to think this is okay and come out and win. The biggest knack to coaching on Saturday, in my estimation, are the coaches that can take their teams and staff in at halftime, either even or behind, and figure out a way to win the second half. Because if you're way ahead, you probably had better players or the other team played poorly. But when it's an even game and you're behind at halftime, that's when the coaching really kicks in, because you have to change your plan, adjust your plan, and adapt to what the other team's doing and what your team's doing best that night to have a chance to win the second half.